Hey, we're back with District Judge Ralph Walton. We're glad to have him here, and we're going to talk a little bit about Granbury and Hood County and state stuff. Give a little education session on what it is. I guess first question, Judge, is what is it that the judge does, the district judge?
District judge, yes. Well, the district courts in Texas are the principal trial courts, and we try everything from felony DWIs to capital murder cases in the criminal area, and then have civil jurisdiction, have family jurisdiction, juvenile jurisdiction. So the wide, complete gamut of just about anything from a car wreck case to a capital murder case. So they're very broad. The district courts have been in existence since 1836. Sam Houston signed an order right after the Republic came into existence in December of 1836 to create the first 3 district courts. And they served the Republic and right on up until 2012. And there are something like 450 district courts in the state of Texas.
And we are the 355th.
We're the 355th. It was created January 1, 1985 by the Texas legislature, became effective January 1, 1985. In fact, I was the first judge of that court appointed by the governor of Texas and served for about 4.5 years, and then went back to practicing law, and then ran in 1998, was elected, and have been on the bench since January 1 of 99. So all total, I'm in my 18th year, man. Can you believe that?
18th year
yeah.
of running for, and the judge's position, although it being appointed when it was originally created, is an elected position like any other, runs every 4 years.
Yeah, in Texas, we elect our judges, have since the Republic, and the position of district judge is an elective office. You run every 4 years. I'm in midterm of this term, and we'll run in about, what, 2 more years? Something like that. So, yeah, they're elected positions, and most of the states in the union elect their judges. Now, in the federal system, the federal judges are appointed by the president, and they serve life tenure in effect. You know, they don't ever have to run for office, so they serve as long as they behave themselves. You know, so that's how that works in the federal system.
Now, Judge, when I went and voted today, there were some judge positions out there on my ballot. One of them being the Supreme Court judge of the state of Texas is what I was voting for, and then the Court of Appeals judge as well. Both of those being elected positions. Talk about what those positions do at the state level.
Well, we have trial courts, and that's what the district courts are. As I indicated originally, that we are the principal trial courts in the state of Texas. Then we have intermediate appellate courts, okay, and those are called courts of appeal. The one that serves this area is located in Fort Worth. There are some 6 judges that sit on that intermediate appellate court. They hear cases out of counties all over this North Texas region that are part of their jurisdiction, and so they hear civil and criminal appeals, all right, from the cases that come out of the district court on appeal. And that's a fairly common thing, especially in the criminal area. You have almost an appeal on nearly every case where there's a conviction and a prison sentence imposed. Those cases are typically appealed to the Court of Appeals in Fort Worth. They render a decision, and then if the litigant doesn't like the outcome of that intermediate appellate range, then they can also appeal to either the Texas Supreme Court or the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. If it's a criminal appeal, it will be to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. And if it's a civil appeal, it will be to the Texas Supreme Court. Texas is one of the only 2 states in the union that has 2 Supreme Appellate Courts, and that being the Texas Supreme Court, again, for civil cases, and the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals for criminal appeals. And that's a unique aspect of Texas jurisprudence that is not seen in any other state other than Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma has that same bifurcated Supreme Court determination.
Judge, you know, and I'll tell a little bit on myself. When I go into the polling place, I feel like I'm an educated voter, and on my local races and the races at the national level, I know what I'm voting on, and I know who I'm voting on. You know, when we get down to Supreme Court judge or of the state of Texas or appeals judge, I got to be honest with you, I really don't know who I'm voting for. So how does an individual get themselves prepared going into the polling place for that?
Well, you just need to you know, check the voting history of the individual. You need to obviously do a little bit of a follow-up with the party to find out more about the individual, get some of the information from the voter registration and all that about the individual. Find out what you can. You're exactly right. Most judicial races, the average citizen has very little knowledge about those persons who are running for the appellate courts. Now, they'll know their local judge. I mean, like here in Hood County, people will know me if I'm on the ballot, you know, simply because I've been there a few times and they know this is a small county. But when you get to the statewide offices and the intermediate appellate courts, most people don't have a lot of knowledge about the individuals that show up on those ballots. Even, quite frankly, judges and lawyers a lot of times will not know much about the individual other than the incumbent. Now, they will probably know something about the incumbent, but if you have a challenger in there, many times what that person has done or what they, espouse, that kind of thing is unknown, really. So, it takes a little proactivity on a voter's part to try to find out that kind of information about the individual.
Is that why it is, or at least what I've been told, it's very hard to beat an incumbent at that kind of level of race, because pretty much everybody knows that's sort of who I voted for last year. I noticed this year, as I have seen in the past, I've seen incumbent in parentheses marked, and that was not on the ballot this time around. Is that something that changed? I'm not sure.
Apparently so. Yeah, I noticed that too. That typically there would be that I after the name to designate incumbent, but I noticed that was not here this time. But yes, that's especially again in judicial races, the power of the incumbency is pretty strong. Yeah, if an individual has been there and has done a good job, then he or she is likely to be reelected again, because quite frankly, the average citizen doesn't know just a whole lot about who is on those positions, and the people that are interested. The lawyers, frankly, those are the ones that are interested in those races, because obviously they have an interest in what the judges do, how they rule, and what they think, and that kind of thing. So the average citizen, as a result, unless they really proactively seek information, they're not going to know a whole lot about that.
Well, you talk about changes, and obviously that's a small change. We've undergone some big changes this year, election cycle in Texas. 18 years you've been running, that makes you through at least one other redistricting, and redistricting this time had a tremendous impact on our races here in the state of Texas. Talk a little bit about how that has affected everything.
Well, of course, we have to redistrict every 10 years, as you know, Kevin, with the when the census is taken, then redistricting. Of course, Texas, as a result of the population growth that has occurred in our great state, has 3 new congressional seats. I believe it is 3. And as a result of that, of course, the redistricting has to occur every 10 years. And, of course, typically that's done by the legislature. They're the ones that are empowered to do that. But under the Voting Rights Act of 1965, because Texas is a southern state and one that had slavery back 150 years ago, because of that, our redistricting programs has to be approved by the feds, all right? So 47 years later, we're still having to run those redistricting efforts by the legislature, by those who have been elected by our citizens to represent them in Austin. We still have to have those programs approved by the feds. Of course, that's what happened this year, and it got involved in several lawsuits as a result of that had to ultimately be resolved before the redistricting could be complete, and we could know where these people would be running. And so as a result of that, the primary that was originally scheduled in March had to be put back until this day, May 29, somewhat 2.5 months later.
2.5 months later, and in essence, what it has done is, in March, Hood County may have had a ability to affect the race for president in the Republican Party, but yet now, for all intents and purposes, that race is over.
Well, that's true, and of course likely will be officially over after this primary, because as I understand it, Mr. Romney only needs 60 additional delegate votes in order to win the nomination, and he's certainly likely to get that. With Texas 144 delegates, certainly he's likely to get that without much problem, and of course as a result, be the nominee as a result of that. But yeah, that delay certainly prevented Texas from having an immediate impact in the early stages of the primaries. And although, as I said, it appears that with this election, the outcome will indicate that Mr. Romney will go over the number necessary to get the nomination. So we'll see. You know,
and
who knows?
So, you know, this is the first step in a two-step process. So obviously, this is the primary election cycle, and then in November we'll have the general election, and we're going to have some big changes general election time, because prior to this year, we would have had in May city elections and school board elections and several other things like that, municipalities or smaller races, big to Hood County, but smaller races in the grand scheme of things. Now all of those are lumped together in one day of voting. So you may have 8 pages of things to vote on come November. Some thoughts on that day?
Well, it'll be a big day in the life of the United States, without a doubt. You know, with that election that's coming up in the fall, we'll decide. The citizens of this country will decide its president, and so it'll be a huge day. And yeah, there will be a lot of elections that will be decided at that time too, on the local level. And of course, you know, I've heard it said that all politics is local. You know, and it's a matter of you know, electing the people that represent your values, your system of beliefs, and who you think is that person that properly represents that, and then getting out there and actively being engaged in the process. You know, I encourage people to get out and vote. You know, this is their country, this is their county, their state, and you know, it's if you don't vote, I've heard it said, you can't complain. So, you know, get out and vote and exercise that right that is so precious. And, you know, we just celebrated Memorial Day. A lot of people have given their lives in order for you and me to be free and to be able to elect our representatives. There's no other nation in this world that has that great high privilege to be able to elect its leaders. And we have that opportunity again this fall to do that. And so I encourage everyone to get out and do just that very thing and vote.
All right. We thank you, Judge. It's always nice to have you here, one of our leaders of our community, doing this part. And with that, we'll go to commercial. And I know when we come back from commercial, we'll have some election returns, because early returns are beginning to get put up on the board right now. And when we come back, we'll be with Dixie Lee Hedgecock and our first initial numbers. Thank you very much,
Thank
Judge.
you, Kevin.
Enjoy an extraordinary lifestyle with superior quality and everyday convenience right at your doorstep. Lakeside Apartments offer 1- and 2-bedroom apartments and a vast array of amenities such as pool, business center, workout room, free cable, and much more. Lakeside Apartments, 1019 Spring Ridge Circle, just moments away from anywhere you want to be in Granbury. Mike Brown Auto Group in Granbury, a Ford and 5-star Chrysler, Dodge, and Jeep dealer, is locally owned and operated. They pride themselves in customer service and community involvement. They are a proud Pirate supporter and share the commitment to excellence motto. Mike Brown Auto Group, located at Highway 377 East in Granbury, or on the web at MikeBrownAuto.com. Mobile RV Service says that just like the Pirates, they can do whatever it takes to get the job done right. With several years of local business here in Hood County, they specialize in customer satisfaction. Mobile RV Service is an authorized service dealer for all RV vendors. They can do most all repairs on site or in their climate-controlled location in the Daffin Industrial Park. Mobile RV Service, proud Pirate supporter.